Ooh, the sun wanted to shine right on me. Lord, that's the Lord, clearly. Hey, dolls and gents. So we just got out of church a little while ago. Had a nice, very nice experience. But it ain't nothing like life changes. Come on in the room. Yeah, my son said, Mama, you know, you ain't gonna find nothing like it. But I was sitting next to this little girl, and she looked like she was maybe about 14 or 15, and she was holding a baby. And the baby kept moving around on her lap. She kept just moving around and fidgeting as babies do. And she seemed very irritated with the baby's movement and frustrated. And it really made me tune in, kind of, just a little bit. I don't know, I just kind of tuned into her spirit, and the Lord told me to tell her that that baby will be her blessing. And then something just hit me, and it made me reflect back on my own life, and it made me think of something. Hey Joe, how you doing? It made me think, what if the very thing that you think is your burden is really your blessing? Now, the way I came to that conclusion was because when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was married, and I was in a very emotionally, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, honey, all the things, abusive marriage. And I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. And I remember calling my mama, and I already had my son. And my ex-husband had drove into my mind. He already knew that I had a fear of being a single mother, because I saw my mother struggle. I saw my mother have to go through so many things to make sure that we had clothes on our back and food on the table. I made, all the, sometimes relationships I'm sure she didn't want to be in, and things that she had to endure and put up with just to make sure that we were okay. Hey Cassandra, I was just thinking of you, girl. I'm gonna inbox you. But I was thinking about all of those things, and so I never wanted to be a single mother. I was like that was, to me, it was like the worst thing in life you could be. That's what I thought. And he always told me that you can't make it, you won't make it without me. So I stayed, and then I found that I had my son, and he was about 6 months, and I found that I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was so distraught. When I tell you I was distraught, I was like, Lord, I can't have no 2 kids. Lord, I don't know what to do with this one child, and this man, he's just so terrible to me. Lord, I don't want to sit up and have another baby. And I called my mom, and I remember crying on the phone, and I said, Mom, I can't have this baby. And she said, hey Latasha, hey Angie, she said, you're gonna be all right. And I said, no, Mama, you're not listening. I'm not gonna be all right. Hey Ebony, I said, I'm not gonna be all right. I don't want to have this baby. But I just, I didn't believe in abortion, but I was like, Lord, I don't want to have this baby. This is just gonna be just too much. I'll never be able to get away from this relationship with 2 children. So just sitting next to that little girl, it brought all of those memories back. And the funny thing is, sitting on one side, on the right side of me, was the little girl holding her baby. And then on the left side of me was my daughter, of whom which I thought was going to be a burden, that has turned out to be one of my greatest blessings. Through life, sometimes our things that we think are going to be our burdens turn into the most beautiful blessings that we could have ever asked for. She was born premature at 7 months, and she was in the hospital for 3 months, and I had to stay in Cincinnati with my daughter. And my ex-husband was very terrible the whole time. It was just torture. I felt like it was torture. I felt like my soul wanted to die daily. It was just a really hard time, but I couldn't leave Cincinnati because my daughter was in the NICU. And by her being in the NICU, I couldn't leave because she had to have milk, and I had to make sure she was okay, and all of those things. I had to hang in there for her sake and for my son's sake. So finally she came home from the hospital, and I had developed a very strong fear of my ex-husband because he was just he wasn't physically abusive. He would just tear up everything around me, punch holes in walls, flip kitchen tables over, a whole lot of crazy stuff. So I knew that I didn't want to raise my children in that kind of environment and atmosphere, because I know that whatever our children see us go through, they think that that's okay. So if your children are watching you get cussed out every day and called everything but your name, then they're going to think that's okay. And I didn't want that to be okay for my daughter to think that it's okay to be called anything but heaven. Do you see how her name is heaven? It means kingdom of God. So I wish anybody would treat my princess any other kind of way. So, and I'm sure my mother felt the same kind of way. But I eventually got away from that relationship, and it was very hard, and I went back a lot of times. So I understand when people are in abusive relationships and you feel like your back is against the wall and you don't know what else to do. And then every time I would look over, I got a car seat in the front, or I got a car seat on the right and I got a car seat in the left, and I felt like they were my burdens. I felt like I'm dragging these two babies with me wherever I go, and I have to be with this man in order to take care of these children. I got to be with this man. That's what I thought. But one day, and it's so funny, shoot, so many things have happened in my life. I actually can't even remember the exact day. Oh yes, I do remember. That I just was done. It was a day that I just couldn't do nothing else. He had wore my whole soul out, and we had moved back to my hometown because he was such a criminal that he couldn't stay in the hometown that he was in. So we moved back to my hometown, and I found me a really nice apartment, and me and the kiddos, and then he didn't have nowhere to go. So he wanted to come where we was. And I always have had a soft and gentle heart and a very forgiving heart, and it's kind of a blessing and a curse. So I let him come to where I was, and what it ultimately did was disrupt my peace. So when they say be careful who you let in your home, they can steal things from you, your joy, your sanity, your peace of mind. Come on in the room, all of these things. I tell anybody that is in an abusive relationship, make sure that you try your best whenever you see them warning signs, because warning comes before destruction. As I look back over that thing, I've seen so many warnings. There were warnings that was not going the right way. But fear, love, didn't want to, I had packed up and moved everything to where he lived, and I don't know, I stayed. But staying in an abusive relationship too long can really warp your thinking, your belief system, your trust system. It can change your heart. It changes your outlook on life. It can change you as a very person. It really can. Hey, Tremaine, girlie. So as I'm sitting next to the little girl in church holding her baby in her lap that she feels like it's her burden that is going to be her blessing, and I'm sitting here looking at what I thought was my burden, but she is awesomely, she is one of my greatest blessings. She is definitely there for me and she's very in tune with me. She knows when I'm having a bad day. Even if I try to hide it, she knows I'm having a bad day. She knows when I'm having a good day. She knows when I need something. She knows when her brother is too wild and loud. And it's so funny because I always say, Lord Jesus, I never wanted children. That was not my desire. But I was in love with my husband, and he wanted children, and I was in love with him from the depths of my soul and my heart. And so he wanted children, and I was his wife, so I gave him 2 children. But after that, I said, yeah, I won't be able to do this anymore because you don't treat me right, and you don't treat these children right. So it's been days that little princess has came and said just the smallest, little gentlest words that have just shifted the whole atmosphere in the room. She is such a joy. In every classroom that she walks into, every teacher, honey, they always say the same thing. And then my son, he's the wild and woolly one. He came first. Now see, this is what the Lord knew about me. Had I had just that boy child to drive me nuts and nothing to mellow it back out, it wouldn't have worked out for me. But he knew that he was going to give me the wild woolly one first, and then he was going to give me a little bit of peace behind it. So I just think that that's just awesome. I think that that is just, whew, that's when they say God knows all about us. He knows all about us. But during these 2.5 years that I've been sick, she has really just, she's a little nurse, she's a little caregiver, she's an encourager, and she'll be 12 this year, and she's my little joy. She's my little sunshine. And the boy child, he's a mama's boy too, but he just can't worry because he's trying to be a ladies' man. That's the thing about that. But I just wanted to share that. You all also just be very mindful of the thing that you're calling a burden may very well be a blessing in disguise. So I'm so grateful for my little princess. And her name is Heaven, and she is definitely a slice of heaven. That's what everybody always says. You named her the right name because she is very mindful of people, and she is very caring and loving and giving and sharing. And I wouldn't trade her for the world. And they both of them continue to give me motivation to keep pushing, to keep striving, to allow them to know that there is nothing that is impossible that you set your mind to. And when you listen to when you belong to God and you listen to the voice of God, you put your ears to his ears and your eyes on his eyes, and you see what he wants you to see, and you do what he wants you to do, then you're going to be okay. So that's the lesson that I try to continue to instill in them every day. And we have to remember that we have to pour that into our children, because this world is so dreadful and treacherous that it can't worry. So we have to constantly continue to pour good things, to pray over our children, to pray with our children. I was just telling them the other day, I said, as you get older, your prayer life has to change. You can't keep saying, now lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. So you got to get on your knees, and you have to actually call some things down. You have to actually ask the Lord for some things. You have to actually thank him for some things that he's done. I try to always start my prayers out with thanksgiving. I try to always thank him for the little things, for the things that he doesn't have to do, for the times he always makes a way and shows up, because he is truly a way maker. So I just wanted to share that because that was just very awesome. It was just a very awesome testimony that came to me while I was sitting in church. Your blessing and your burden might be confused. You got to flip them around. You got to look at it from a different point of view, or you got to give it time. You got to give it time. You got to give it time to turn into the blessing. You have to give it time to blossom. It's like a caterpillar. It starts off on the ground, and it's got to go through the cocoon, and then it comes out a beautiful butterfly. So you got to give it time. Give that thing that's a burden time to become a blessing. That's all I got for today, you all. I love you all. Be blessed.